Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're having an excellent day to this point, and if you're not, I hope this video improves it slightly. So back in the very early days of this channel, I made a video about Jojo Rabbit. It was my favorite movie of 2019. There are so many incredible scenes, and I go through most of them in that video, but today I want to revisit one of them that I think contains a very relevant piece of wisdom. If you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit, definitely take the time to do so. It's a great movie, but it's certainly not required to understand the importance of this particular scene. And the scene I'm going to be talking about is a massive turning point in the film, because when Jojo first discovers Elsa living in the walls of his home, their relationship is contentious, as you'd expect, given that she's a Jew and Jojo is supposed to be a loyal young Nazi. And it's important to remember that when Jojo meets Elsa, he has a severely damaged pride. His time at the Nazi summer camp was a disaster. He humiliated himself as bad as someone possibly could in that environment. His face is permanently scarred, so he doesn't even want to venture into public. He only has 2 friends, one of which is imaginary. So Elsa is a godsend in a way for Jojo. There is not a single German that Jojo could feel superior than. But then Elsa shows up, and because she's Jewish, he thinks she's inherently below him. Of course, Elsa isn't one to be bullied by a little fool like Jojo, so she continually embarrasses him, physically and intellectually. So even the people who are supposed to be ethnically inferior are making Jojo feel small. Through their short and heated conversations, Jojo does learn one piece of information about Elsa that he correctly identifies as a vulnerability. She's engaged, and she has no idea what the status of her fiancé is. She knows he's fighting with the resistance, but that's about it. To take revenge on Elsa for constantly shattering the last bit of pride he had, Jojo writes a fake letter to Elsa from her fiancé, and it's pretty terrible. It's poorly written and childish, but Elsa has clearly been worrying a lot about her future with Nathan, if he's met someone else, or if he's dead, so Jojo's letter cuts close to the bone in that respect. But it's Elsa's reaction to this letter which I really want to talk about because it starts the change in Jojo. She doesn't throw him up against a wall or restrain him like she's already done multiple times. She doesn't call him ugly or stupid or weak. Instead, she just goes back to her little dark room and cries. The acting in this scene is fantastic, the little movements Thomasine McKenzie does with her hands. I like small stuff like that because it shows her anguish in a subtle way. And I also really like how long she keeps eye contact with Jojo. It's sort of like she's asking questions of his humanity. And Jojo does not have any answers. When Elsa retreats, Jojo is completely caught off guard. He's expecting a fight, but he doesn't get one. So he just stands there feeling guilty. The scene reminds me a lot of a monologue from The Merchant of Venice. Coincidentally, it's delivered by a Jew. I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? I could have played you Al Pacino's version, but, I didn't want to deprive you of my acting genius, so you're welcome. But it is beautiful language, and in a way, Jojo receives this monologue when Elsa responds with tears instead of anger. And I wanted to bring this scene up because in the modern world, especially the United States, things are pretty horrible, in case you haven't noticed. Over the past week, especially with the Chauvin trial and everything else, Twitter has been even more hellish. I didn't even know that was possible, but here we are. Now, what would have happened in Jojo Rabbit if Elsa decided to insult Jojo and push him to the ground after he read this letter? The story ends up much differently, doesn't it? No redemption, no friendship, no love. The hate would just continue to boil and boil. At many points nowadays, whether it be online or in person, we end up in Elsa's position. And politics is the poison of the day, so I'll use an example in that context. The label racist has been thrown out a lot over the past couple years. I think people have been a little too trigger happy with the label, but that's sort of beside the point. Let's say you encounter an actual racist, a proud racist, a grand wizard in the KKK, to use an extreme example. The first thing to recognize is that they're like Jojo. Racism isn't its own brand of evil. It's really just an offshoot of pride. I'm better than this person because of their race. As long as humans exist, there will be racism because we're all at the mercy of our own pride. If you read the life of Frederick Douglass, which everyone should in my opinion, he tells a pretty astonishing story about pride. When slaves from different plantations would meet each other, you'd expect them to have some sort of fellowship, and I'm sure many of them actually did. But some slaves would actually brag about the wealth of their masters in order to feel superior than other slaves. If that doesn't say everything you need to know about human nature, I'm not sure what would. So of course we should reject racist behavior, but we also need to understand that it's just a symptom of a larger problem, a problem that we all have. And if you want that person to hold a more enlightened perspective, calling them a racist piece of shit that should hang themselves, that's not going to yield great results. That's what the person is expecting. Nobody understood this and acted it out better than Martin Luther King Jr., and I'll leave a link to the entire speech I'm about to show you a clip from. It sums up everything I'm trying to say here perfectly, and he's a remarkable speaker as we all know, so it's worth your time.
You just keep loving people and keep loving them, even though they're mistreating you. Here's a person who is a neighbor, and this person is doing something wrong to you, and all of that. Just keep being friendly to that person. Keep loving them. Don't do anything to embarrass them. Just keep loving them, and they can't stand it too long. Oh, they react in many ways in the beginning. They react with bitterness because they are mad because you love them like that. They react with guilt feelings, and sometimes they'll hate you a little more at that transition period, but just keep loving them. And by the power of your love, they will break down under the load.
That's it, guys. And you know what? I wish he was wrong. I wish I could insult people into my point of view because that's just the instinctual thing to do at times, especially when people are saying things that you believe to be self-evidently untrue. But it doesn't work, and it's never going to. And the funny thing is, people think that insults will make the other person feel bad. That's generally not what happens. It's when you respond in a calm and polite way that people start to get pissed off, as Martin Luther King says in the speech. So even if you want to make someone feel negative emotion, be kind to them. It actually works. And it also opens the possibility to change. It might be small depending on the person, but it's not zero. I'm not sure about you guys, but I wouldn't mind living in a country where half the population doesn't hate the other half. And as difficult as it might be, and trust me, there are certainly topics that I have trouble holding back on, but I'm going to try to make an effort to react more like Elsa. And for anyone who's made it this far, it might be worth giving a shot as well. Sadly, I don't see our society taking this route because it's hard. It's really damn hard. But it's the only solution I can see going forward. But once again, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have a superb rest of your day. And remember to subscribe on your way out if you're interested in more of my content. I will talk to you soon.